So guys, after doing a few MEL videos, and I'm going to continue doing them as well, I want to actually do some Python videos kind of in tandem so you can see the differences and also, in my opinion, it's just better to use Python. It's a more powerful language, it has more access to things in Maya, it's running on a different level in Maya, so it's much quicker most of the time. And it's just going to give us better results when we're writing longer bits of code. So I think it's great to get the basics of that language down as well. Another part of it is that learning the basics of Python means that you can jump between programs and not necessarily be writing the same code, but you'll understand the syntax of it. And so you can actually go between different 3D packages, and you can really start to use scripting in a more kind of in a broader sense, in something that you can actually create broader and kind of deeper things. Okay, so I'm going to jump in pretty far on, or at least, well, not really, but we know, well, at least hopefully you know now what commands are, and being that, we know that up here the code that is being run up here is MEL, right? So if I copy that down to my MEL tab, I can run that, and then it's actually going to run. Now, if I copy that across to my Python tab, it's not going to work. So it's going to give me a valid syntax, and that's right. It is actually, I mean, we really have to think of these things as different languages. Okay, so you're just talking in German when someone only speaks Spanish, or speaking in Chinese when someone only speaks Swedish. It's really something so fundamentally different that we just have to learn different ways in which things work. Okay, and I mean, the great thing about Python is its syntax is incredibly simple and very forgiving. So it's much more forgiving than MEL in the way that we actually declare things and we do things. And even though we still need to understand how it works, it does actually become something much easier to use. Okay. Now, let's just, in this first video, go through the differences between the two and just do the same thing. And I know we're just really focusing on this one command here, which is kind of boring, but again, just to really hammer home how this works. So again, in MEL, we can run polysphere. In Python, we can't. Now, that doesn't mean that Python can't run the command polysphere. It just doesn't, at this second, understand how to. Okay, so it's giving us the correct coloring, so it understands that polysphere is there, but again, it doesn't know where it's coming from. So, excuse me. Now, if we delete all the flags afterwards, we get a different error, and it means that, or it's saying that this is not defined, or polysphere is undefined. That's just because we haven't actually told Python what to look for, or what to actually understand or interpret when it's running this code. Okay, so what we have to do in Maya for Python, the first thing we need to do is we need to import. So import. And that just means what we want to do is we want to import a module. Okay, so in Python, modules are collections of commands that we can run whenever we want, that Python understands what to do, right? So they're kind of libraries. They're just a big collection of things that allows us to actually run what we want to. And in Maya, we actually have to import the specific Maya commands that allow us to access those commands that we run in Maya, okay? So what we do in Python here is we import maya.cmds. So that is the module that we're actually going to be using, or it's the module of Maya commands that allows Python to understand what we then type in as a Maya command, okay? Now, for us to make it easier when we're typing, we want to import Maya commands as something else. So let's import them as Maya commands. So that's MC. All right, so there are lots of other ways you can do it. Lots of people use CD. You can literally use whatever you want. I could just go Maya, or actually I can't do Maya, but I can I can go, yeah. Yeah. Usually I'm just going to use Maya command. So MC. And that means that what we're doing is we're importing the Maya commands. We're importing them as this other name. Right? So whenever we type this in, it knows that it's going to understand everything that comes afterwards as a Maya command. Right? So let's actually just do this. Okay? So we know that polysphere exists as a Maya command, as a Maya MEL command. So if we copy polysphere across, I'm also going to get rid of the semicolon at the end there. We don't need that in Python, and I will go into a little bit more of syntax later, but we just don't need that to end our lines in Python. Now, it understands that polysphere is a command that we can run, and we've just imported those Maya commands into Python, and we've imported them as MC. So what I want to do in Python is tell Python that this command is coming from these Maya.commands. So I'm going to go MC dot. Okay, so that means that Python now is going to look through the library that is Maya.commands, and it's going to look for this command, polysphere. So it knows that there's a command in Maya, and it's going to run it. Okay, so let's try to run this. Now, oh, well, actually, we haven't even run that yet. So let's just run this line. So import the Maya commands as MC. Right, so that's just run. It's given us no errors, so that should work. And let's just try to run this here. Right, so it hasn't worked for us, right? So when we just run this in MEL, that just works quite easily, doesn't it? But in Python, we actually have to, based on its syntax, we need to do a couple of other things, or just pretty much one other thing. And in Python, the way we define how a command is, or something as a command, is we need to add parentheses afterwards, okay? So that just means that it knows now that it could expect flags afterwards. Right, so in MEL, we understand that when we're adding flags, we add the dash, and we add, so we add this, we add the flag, done. We know that flag is added. It doesn't expect any other way in which flags are going to come in. They just start after the command, okay, after that dash. But in Python, we actually need to define where those flags are going to be. So I'm just going to do that as well. N equals geosphere. Oh, my typing is off too. Different keyboard. Okay. So if we have a look at that, we've done exactly the same thing. So this is just the syntax for how these putting these next to each other, they have a different syntax for denoting flags and how we run commands, okay? So I'm just going to copy this over into my Python tab, okay? And you can see right next to each other the difference in syntax, okay? So the MEL one, it understands without anything else that polysphere is a command, and then we write flags with the -n or the dash prefix, and then we write the flag, and then we just put a space bar and then the value of that flag afterwards. In Python, what we're doing is we need to tell it where this command is coming from, which again is from the MySMDS that we've imported as MC, and then we have to tell it inside these parentheses, we always have to have these parentheses there, that the value of the flag is something. So the value of the flag, this flag needs to equal the value. And again, these look fairly similar, but again, this is the kind of exactly why or how different languages do exactly the same thing. And you might go, well, why would I bother using Python when it seems like MEL is so much simpler, right? But Python is just so much easier to do so many things. Okay, so just bear with me as we do that. And once you get used to the syntax of Python, you'll be blown away at how much simpler it is. All right, so the last thing I want to do is just to show us is just to show you just how we do multiple flags here. So in MEL, we'll go dash, and then what's another one? Oh yeah, so SX is the subdivisions along the axis, and we'll just go 3, because you know I like that 3 number. And here, up in Python, we actually have to have a comma. So they're comma separated values. So these values, there's one value here, and then we have a comma between the next value. And that's going to be without the dash, SX, and that's going to equal 3. Okay? I'm just going to change these names as well. So that's going to be, what's that? It's going to be Python sphere. That's going to be MEL, sphere MEL. And so when I now run this, and I'm going to just swap across, of course, I cannot run that code, which is MEL code in my Python tab, because this tab only accepts Python as its input. But I'm going to go polysphere. I can create that in MEL. Remember, that's the syntax. And here, I'm actually going to change it so it's visually different. I can make that 5. And in here, we're doing exactly the same thing, but we're doing it in Python. Okay? Right. So that's how we transfer across the same commands that we're using in MEL, but we're going to use them in Python. So this code, in fact, if I change this back to 3, and you kind of look at the differences, or look between MEL and Python, so you should write this out yourself. This code is going to create exactly the same result. Okay? Except for the name of the sphere. But again, the same result, essentially. So we've got MEL sphere, Python sphere, and MEL sphere. Okay, awesome. But that's just the start for the understanding of the differences, but we'll get into some more later. Okay, thanks guys.